Hey guys, Ash here coming at you today with another Race Shot Legends champion guide, this time on Elegaius. Shout out to a few of you guys. Eugene looking for an Elegaius guide. Any comments on Elegaius? I think I found the worst Lego in the game. Is he the worst legendary in the game? I will save my opinions for the actual spotlight here. Bad karma, I keep pulling dupes Elegaius. I'm committing to build a big juicy one. Can you do a guide for him? Muhammad, oh look at this dude. He got Altan, Saito, and Elegaius from 3 shard pulls. Oh, that's a tough trio. But I do not think, cat's out of the bag. I do not think he's the worst legendary in the game. And today we're going to talk about why. So Elegaius is an undead horde magic affinity legendary champion. He looks pretty cool. He's got kind of the candlelight vigil over here on the back side. He has a big, massive tongue problem, right? I mean, man, I guess he is dead or undead or whatever that is. I thought this was a goatee at first, but it turns out, yeah, it's just his tongue. And you can see here as evidence in his little beautiful profile picture here, his avatar, is the disgusting tongue is the first thing that you notice and see from him. Anyway, visually, I do think he's a pretty good visual addition to the Undead Horde faction. He's a support champion. He's got great base stats, 22k HP, 1100 defense, 106 on the speed. Everything is pretty much above average, specifically the speed and the HP. He's a good, for a control champion. I don't want to go as far as saying he's a good control champion, but his base stats are good for a control champion. Spirits of Spite, his A1 ability, attacks one enemy, has a 35% chance of placing a block active skills when booked, but that chance does increase by 0.75 for every 1% of HP this champion loses. So if he's closer to death, which actually parlays nicely with his passive as well, which we'll get to in a moment here. If he's closer to death, he has a greater ability to potentially lock out an enemy with the block active skills, which, keep in mind, A, requires accuracy to land, and B, it can be cleansed as well. On the A2, Dead Stop attacks one enemy, puts their skills on cooldown, so a flat-out lockout. Also places a block buff for 2 turns if the enemy team has duplicate champions. So if you're going against, I don't know, 2 Tauruses, right? They'll both have their skills locked out, as well as both get that block buffs debuff. Not a bad lockout ability, truthfully, for being single target, right? It's a little weird with the duplicate. Obviously, that can't be used in gold tier live arena. Not that you're using a lot of Elegaius in gold tier live arena, but it's cool nonetheless. It's a cool ability. It's not trash. Ghost Rage, his A3 ability, attacks all enemies on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. I'm not sure this is a champion worth booking, honestly, guys, because not just because he sucks. That's not the point I'm trying to make. I'm trying to say that you can actually, if you want to utilize this ability in the arena on a 4-turn cooldown when booked, you're probably only going to be using it once anyway. You're going to be using it at the beginning of the battle. So I don't think it's essential that you book it. Now, the 100% chance of removing 2 random buffs and 100% chance of decreasing the turn meter is pretty, important. So it's tough when it comes to books on this guy. I probably wouldn't book him if you're using him only for faction wars. If you want to go ahead and try an unorthodox, definitely off-meta strategy for the arena, then yeah, probably going to need to book this ability out to get the 100%. Anyway, 100% removing 2 buffs, 100% decreasing turn meter by 20%, decreases enemy turn meter by a further 10% for each removed buff, but he can only remove 2, so you can get potentially a 40% turn meter decrease, which isn't a bad ability, but it's not a great ability for a legendary on a 4-turn cooldown. A full buff removal would have been great, or even better yet, potentially going in there and changing this ability to where he's reducing the duration of buffs by 3 turns, kind of like a Timid the Fool to mitigate polymorph, would also be a better version of this ability. On the passive, Spurned by Death, 4-turn cooldown, prevents this champion death, keeps him alive with 1 HP when hit by a fatal hit. Again, that actually plays into the A1 because he'll have low HP, where he can come back around and hopefully block active skills on somebody after his Spurned by Death passive kicks in. If this skill prevents this champion's death, which obviously it's going to, it heals him by 30% of their max HP, it fills their turn meter by 30%, and it places a shield 30% of his max HP for 2 turns. It won't prevent this champion's death if they're under a heal reduction debuff. And again, there's a 4-turn cooldown. He also brings accuracy in all battles by 60, which isn't bad. So there it is, guys. Overall, what do they say about him in the reviews? Pretty dang crappy. Honestly, he's not one of the better legendary champions in the game. But unlike some other really poor legendaries in the game, he has a kit that, you know, it has some utility. He's really easy to keep alive. He's tanky. He has a good passive. He has a useful aura in some areas of the game, right? Especially progression. And then he has lockouts, and control, right? So at least there's some synergy in his kit, which is why I don't think he's the worst, but he's far from the best. He just doesn't bring enough to the table, really. That's his big problem. He's missing something else, right? I mean, heck, we all have access to a champion like a Rosin Scarhide, which just has 100% turn meter decrease. You know, it's quite a bit different, but it's not, I mean, at least it's very clear what you're getting on this ability. Whereas Elegaius, even a 20% turn meter decrease is not enough to justify a legendary, you know, as the highlight of their kit. Anyway, I don't think he's great. I'd say he's probably a C tier legendary personally. But how do we have him built in today's video? And where can we use him, right? So here is my build right here. Before we kind of go in depth, let's take a look at hellhades.com. They rank him a 2.5, which is what, like a C- or so, right? So the grades are roughly the same. They give him a decent grade in Spider, I guess, to decrease turn meter, you know, with the A3, but there's so many better options, like a Sylar, epic options, you know. Sand Devil, he has, or excuse me, Scarab King, what am I talking about? Sand Devil 1. Scarab King 4, Frost Spider 3.5, Eternal Dragon, because of all the lockouts that he has, a 4.5. So I guess that would probably be his best spot. Faction Wars and Arena Progression, you can definitely get viability out of this guy in both of those areas because of the A3 and the A2. So let's try him out in the Arena today. I have him in a double perception and 1 accuracy set. If you're early game, you're just using him in Faction Wars, he can be helpful. Good control, right, in Faction Wars. And I would not book him out, as I said earlier, just for Faction Wars. As a matter of fact, I probably wouldn't even do his Masteries just for Faction Wars, you know. If you did want to try him as your main control champion inside the Arena, just to mess around, then, you know, again, you could invest. In that case, I would put skills and masteries on him if you wanted to be unorthodox. Again, triple perception would probably be the way to go on this dude. We want him fast and we want him with a lot of accuracy. We just did a video on Warlord yesterday, and I guess he has the same 3 stat priorities. He's no Warlord. Don't get that wrong. I'm not comparing him, but you know, speed, accuracy, or accuracy, speed in that order. And then the survivability, HP, right? He's an HP-based champion that scales really well. Here I have him more orientated towards being a control champion versus being super tanky. But if you wanted to, in Doom Tower Waves, against the Eternal Dragon, or wherever you're using this dude outside of the arena, you can put him in a bolster or a shield set, right? Because it's easy to scale that HP high enough. And then he could kind of be like a quasi support with the shield, as well as a control for your team, right? And he wouldn't be the worst option in the world at that. I haven't even used him in restrictive content personally, like Curse City, although I'm sure there's some use cases for him in Curse City on upcoming rotations as well. HP on the ring, crit damage on the amulet, and accuracy on the banner. We have speed on the boots. We have accuracy on the chest. I would go HP percentage for PvE content, for dungeon content, and then crit rate on the gauntlets. Now, this dude doesn't deal a lot of damage, so I want to be very clear here in saying you don't have to build him with crit rate and crit damage. So another option would be HP percentage, especially if you're going to go the shield or bolster route. HP percentage on the gauntlets, HP percentage on the chest, just make him super tanky, still throw him in triple accuracy and or perception. He'll have plenty of accuracy in PvE, and you just get more utility out of the champion, okay? But for the arena, I would definitely go with a little bit of damage, and a little bit more accuracy, right? And if you're keeping him alive in PvE content, the same thing, right? You build him with crit rate, right? Try to min-max your damage and your overall team efficiency. So I have 92, 131 on the crit rate, crit damage. I don't have him awakened. If I did, you know, he could be your intimidating presence champion. Other than that, we're building him with a lot of accuracy anyway, so I think that Brimstone makes a lot of sense on this guy. Other options in the arena, if you had a high awakening, I would go Polymorph on him. You know, Polymorph is still where it's at. So those would be my recommendations. Maybe even Temporal Chains, because he's a control type champion anyway. So those are like 4 or so blessings that I would consider with him. I did go with a PvE build here. We ended at the support tree. We went down, we picked up Eagle Eye. I do want to go ahead and pull him back up again on hellhades.com, just to give you guys an indicator of how to build him if you want to go down and pick up War Master instead. So, first of all, his multipliers, they're pretty weak. 0.18 is weak on the A1. 0.27 is not bad on the single target. It's not great on the single target A2. A 0.2 is weaker than Eric's AoE on our A1, but not by much. So that's how much damage we're getting on his A3, which again, to min-max your team and damage-wise, I think it does make sense to go ahead and build him with a little bit of crit rate. I think these masteries are just fine for standard PvE. Nothing wrong there at all. Get some self-heal with Life Drinker. You come down with War Master as well. Okay, let's go ahead and try this dude out, right? Let's see what we can get out of this guy. I have a lot of accuracy on this. You may have noticed I have Eagle Eye and I have accuracy on the chest. This is for, you know, gold 4 and beyond inside the arena. I have him with Eric's. Why not? 2 HP based champion. And then I have just kind of like it's not necessarily a go first team, but we're fast enough where we can go first sometimes as well. I think the Arbiter makes more sense than a Duchess on a team like this. But let's see what we can do. We're going to go in with the A3. We're going to remove 2 buffs from everybody. We only need to remove 1, which is nice. We don't want Trunda to go with the increased attack. And we're also going to do some damage. And we're also going to reduce their turn meters. So, you know, all said and done, this is why I said the dude's not, you know, he's not absolute trash. Nice little controllability there, right? But it's not out of this world. You know, like, it's striking comparing him to an Eric's who's on the same team, right? She hits harder, she has better control, and she has more viability with her A3 as well, right? So, like, yeah, definitely outclassed. We're going to go in with Ghost Rage there, and you'll notice that we did remove that Stone Skin. So it's a pretty strong opening ability. Moreover, we reduce the turn meter on everybody, so we can give Eric's the opportunity to come in here and nuke them down before they have a chance to go. So we get in there with a stun, block damage situation, but we're fine. So, like, overall here, right? I mean, he's not good, but he's not awful. I think that sometimes, even myself included, legendaries, generally speaking, are pretty dang good in this game, guys. You know, like, there's a lot of good legendaries, and he's certainly not one of them, but he's not that bad, you know? It's just needs a buff, needs a little bit more, but what he has isn't awful. Does that make sense? Am I riding the fence too hard on this dude? He sucks, but not that bad. How about that? More concise, right? So we increase the cooldown of all of UDK's skills there. The A1 is pretty handy to block out, and the A2 is handy to lock out, right? Block out versus lockout. You'll see, like, even on a team like this, I mean, we're not going against platinum teams here. However, you know, you can see how, yeah, you could definitely, there's probably somebody somewhere that's like, yeah, I actually use Gaius all the time in the arena. He gets the job done, right? Let's go against this team, Siphi Rotos Necret, and then we'll go into a little bit of PvE content. I do have so they go first, which is unfortunate. We're not going to be able to land any debuffs on them. So I probably could have still gone with the A2 to get the increased speed. You can see he should have died there, but he prevented his death and he got the shield. That was the passive. So again, not a bad ability there. Let's go and see what we can remove for buffs and or turn meter. So, you know, we removed some buffs. We decreased some turn meter. Not a bad ability. Now we can go in and try to stun Siphi. And of course we didn't. But we can go in here and add the strength into our team. I'd rather not let him die here, and Rotos won't be able to attack him because of the veils. That's nice. So at this point, you know, we could go in with the A2, but it would be rerouted to UDK. So I'm just going to save the A2. I'll use it next round, I guess, instead. Hopefully the stone skin will be off, or next turn, I should say. Hopefully the stone skin will be off of UDK at that point. We're just going to go in with the ally protect here, and then yeah, we might as well go for it anyway. Got a weak hit, unfortunately. Let's see. This might be kind of a long one. Let's see. He goes down. It's okay. We'll revive and come back in. He does have his A3 available right now. Let's go with the A1 here. Yeah, I think we're probably going to the shock of nobody, I think this team's going to be better than our squad here, but we'll see. We'll see. I do want to give him one more shot with that. I want to give him one more shot with the A2. By the way, I have on the main channel an Eric's video going live in a couple days that you're not going to want to miss, guys. Really, really fun one. Ghost Rage goes in. Remove some buffs. I don't know, remove all buffs sure is better than remove some buffs, especially in the world that we have like Sun Wukong and like just so unbelievably better than a champion like Elegaius, right? So I think that, again, when you look at his kit in a vacuum, I'm just going to get out of here, just jump into PvE. We're going to lose anyway. When you look at his kit in a vacuum, not awful, not great. But when you compare him to all of the other options out there, some of which, like Sun Wukong, we get for free, you know, you start questioning, dude, this guy really does need a buff, right? So Secret Room 6, I believe, yeah, I was using him here. Again, this is like a good example of the type of situation that you would use in Elegaius. A secret room content, restrictive content. He actually leads in with the A2, which is worth noting there. He does not go in auto with the A3 unless the enemy team has at least one buff each. I'm not sure if it's by how many buffs they have on each or if it's by the total number of buffs, but there he goes in with the A3. Decrease some turn meter. You can see that he's not dealing much damage. We don't have War Master or anything on him, but again, we do have his crit rate and his crit damage up a little bit. So I don't know. What do you guys think about this dude? You've seen a decent amount of him. He's an all right control champion. You know, even the single target lockout, like it doesn't seem that bad on paper. But then, you know, like a Senesha, you know, it's an epic ability, his A2, you know, and his A3 just doesn't feel very legendary-like. So again, repeating myself for the 20th time, but he's a dude who's not awful, but he's not legendary. He's like an average epic is what he feels like to me. So I'll come back at you guys at the end of this wave just to see how much damage he did. Be right back. All right, guys, so here we go. Secret Room 6, total damage again. I mean, he's competing with the likes of Ugo, you know, so not much there. Even looking at this, it makes me say that, you know, maybe you just punt crit rate and crit damage totally on the amulet and the gauntlets. Maybe you just go with HP percentage and, you know, try to get a little bit more viability out of him. Overall, he's far from the best or even an average legendary for the reasons that we already discussed in the video. But, you know, you can get some utility out of him, I'm sure, especially progression-wise in Faction Wars. Guys, what do you think of this champion? Have you found a use case that maybe I didn't cover? Would love to hear from you guys in the comments below. And either way, let me know the next champion that you would like to see a guide for on the channel. And hey, maybe I'll make your request come true in the near future. Much love, and as always, take care, guys.